So hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome to the video. So in today's video I wanted to look at F1 Manager 2022 and just how we go about setting up the driver confidence. We're just going to run this one session. Obviously it's 3 sessions during practice, so we're going to do P1 or P3, P2 and P1. And or P1, P2, 3 and P3, not sure which way around it goes, but we're here at the Hungaroring and we're riding alongside the 2 McLaren drivers, and just how I approach things. So first of all we're going to look at the circuit itself. It gives us some understanding of whether it's going to be a fast circuit and the attributes that the car is going to really need. So low speed and medium speed are the attributes that you can see here. Acceleration off the corners, you'll see there's not very many long straights that we're going to be able to manipulate fast speed. It's all about the speed coming off the corners. And you see me selecting the reserve driver here because it's the only chance you really get to build your reserve driver. So we're going to run a 20 lap sprint stint on the hard tyres, and you'll see I'm just changing the driver options here as well, just so that we're not burning out the tyres. You don't need to run the tyres absolutely flat out to be able to run these sessions, and it helps you just use your tyres more sparingly really. You're just going to keep using the hard tyre for as long as you can in this session. 20 laps, 21 laps, something like that. Obviously we're going to use Lando as our main driver really. As you'll see in this video, Ricciardo is not particularly the best driver, and I don't know whether that's something that they've factored in to reality really, with the way his season's gone. So I don't really make many adjustments with the first setup. Sometimes you can try and adjust them to get them to middle of the bars, even in this session. But I think just leaving them towards the edge of the bars gives you an understanding as to where you need to go next with the next adjustments. So I just pull straight out of the pit with both drivers, and we're just going to get them up to maximum 16 times speed here, just to get them doing the laps. And you can see in the practice goals section there's the driver, you see Van Dorn's experience rating going up. They're both 100% clued up on the components on the car, but we're just building up experience percentage on the learning the track, and the 2 out of 3 you can see on both Lando and Stoffel's car sort of familiarity with the car. So I just fast forward through all these interventions that keep coming up, just running them as you can see down the bottom. Slow pace, slow fuel, just saves the tyres, and eventually we're going to get to both drivers getting that 5 out of 5 is what we're waiting for. I do move around these quite a lot. I would, yeah, just in this session I'm just going to flick to standard driving, see where they are within the grid, just on a standard lap. Usually I'd let them run a couple of varying different laps, but obviously we've got this intervention straight away.
Okay with the car? It doesn't feel right.
So, and he says obviously that there's definitely a lot wrong with the car. So we'll head Lando into the garage. And as soon as he hits the garage we can see the issues. Obviously we've got 3 bad and 2 great. If we just zoom in here you can see on the straights, obviously I'm wanting to adjust the rear wing because it has the biggest effect on the straights. The front wing and the rear wing will affect the straights tab on the right hand side. It's the only 2 that will affect the straights. So we're going to try and position the white arrowed section almost to the end of each of these sections that are in the bad, and then we're going to try and keep the great ones pretty close together. So by manipulating the bars on the left hand side, we're just going to try and get the bars on the right hand side to sort of work with us. So as you can see there, the toe out just affects the rear wing section. I can't particularly go back there. I'm just kind of watching the footage as I'm sort of dictating it here. But we'll try and look more into it as we look through Stoffel's setup. But again, just fast forwarding as soon as Lando's out and get him doing some more laps. So it's very hard to track sometimes at 16. So we don't want Van Dorn to overshoot the pit here, and we don't want to waste time keeping it running at 16. So again, you can see Stoffel's got the same issue here, but we've only got a good in the centre. Now you could have taken a picture of Lando's setup and seen, because they are going to be very similar or not, although they're not going to be exact. So some of the things that you might see with Lando's setup, you could use that on Stoffel's or vice versa, or your other driver. So remember to take pictures while you're doing these. One driver might have had a perfect traction section, and you could have used that on the other drivers, because they will be very similar. But like I say, adjusting the rear wing and the front wing will affect the straight section. So again, just making sure we're on the right tyre, the hard tyre here. And we're just going to go back in, get the thing fast forwarding till they're all reconfigured, and we can get back out on track.
There's a spin!
So once Stoffel's all configured, just getting him straight back out on the circuit.
And Lando, how's the balance? How's the
Fast forward there, and we're back
It's all good. It's a cool car to drive.
looking at Lando's balance. When he says that, it's normally not too bad. Usually when he says I'm happy, it's a better setup. So just look out for things that they say as well. So just waiting for Lando to come into the pit here. If you look at the number on the right hand side as well. So we're getting somewhere now. So the optimum ones, we really don't want to move them from the positions that they're in. So to be able to just adjust the straights section on the right hand side, we're just going to move that rear wing one click. And I think we probably really want to go to the outer extremities on this one. But I'm not sure what I went with here. But obviously trying to just manipulate anti-roll bar distribution, and the toe out, like I said, will just affect the brake stability. And cornering's really mild, but definitely use toe out for obviously the two there that you can see that it's affecting. You're just trying to move them accordingly. So the good ones want to move a little bit further away from the green, and the optimal ones want to stay pretty much where they are. The great ones could just be like a slither to the left or right hand side. But again, I would seriously suggest taking pictures on your phone when you've made the adjustment, so that you know, say you move, say it's on bad, and you move closer to it, it's good, and you move past it and it's bad again. You know where you can sort of move back to. I do find the bars sometimes a little bit hard to understand where you've come and where you're going to. There should be sort of a red bar from where you've started from, I think. It would give you a better understanding of the progressions that you've made to reach where you've gone to, because sometimes you go a little bit past and then you'll want to come back. But again, we're just running each section, developing the car as you're out on the circuit, and then coming back in and making these tiny adjustments. So again, you can see we've still got one bad one here. So I think we really need to want to move that out to the far side. And the good one again, the two good ones need to move. But you see down the bottom on the straights, that's the sort of distance I think you want to move when you're moving a good sort of move. And a great move, kind of where they are now really. So the good, it's very hard to work out an exact science with this. They're just little, it's just like great is a little move, optimum keep it where it is, good is like a slightly bit more of a gap than the great, and the bad is a bigger distance away. So it is, as much as tuning and setup is all definitely a part of Formula 1, it's probably the biggest part of Formula 1. I really wouldn't skip these sections. Obviously you can simulate them, but it really is like another part of the game, doing these little tweaks here and there, just adjusting the setup. This is like the engineer's forte really. It's what the drivers do. They bring the car in and you're really handing this over to the engineer, and he's making these fine adjustments, and then you're sending the driver back out on the circuit and he's seeing if those adjustments have made an impact for a good way or a bad way. And it really is pretty much what real life is like. You make these adjustments even in games like Assetto Corsa Competizione, which obviously you'll see I've played quite a lot of, and I do very much enjoy doing the setups. But it is a case of coming in, making those adjustments and going back out and trying them. It's the same process even on a game like this where you're not actually doing the driving. So you can see in the setup confidence there that we've finished and we've got no understanding really of the setups. But obviously we jump Danny Ricciardo back in the car, and again we're going to start to think about tyre selection here as well. Obviously we've got one hard tyre saved for the race, one medium tyre saved for the race, and a set of softs for the race. So you really want to be using up the tyres you think you're going to use least of, and obviously we really need to save those soft tyres for actually during the qualifying sessions. So try and use up the hard tyre and the medium tyres well before you're thinking about using the soft tyres. They're really going to be our best friend when it comes to qualifying. Excuse me. So you can see here again we're just looking at we've only really got the two that we could adjust there, but they're worth adjusting because it doesn't take any time during this session to make these adjustments. We're just going to go straight out on track, and you can see there we've got two optimals. So I really could have carried over the optimal one to Ricciardo's car, because I didn't actually put it right out on the far left, which is where it should be. So definitely take some learning from both of the drivers' setups. Like I said, take the pictures.
Sessions should be starting now.
So we're just going to fast forward this. I might even, skipped right along there with Danny Rick. He seems to have a much more affinity with his his engineer. He's much quicker to get the car set up than Lando. So I was just looking for where Ricciardo was then when I came onto the map, because I just didn't want to overshoot the pit. So we can just fast forward to Danny Rick getting round to the pit area and start to slow things down again. As soon as in the garage, get that reconfiguration going. So you can see we're absolutely optimal on two of the settings here. So looking to just move traction. So to make sure we don't adjust the straight value that's already on optimal, we only really want to be adjusting anti-roll bar, tyre camber and the toe out. Really don't want to be adjusting the front wing if we can get away with it. So that's literally back to where we were again. So just making the adjustments, trying to not adjust the optimal ones at all. Obviously using the toe out, we can bring the braking stability back to where it should be. And if you do cock it up during this little section here, just go back down to the revert section at the bottom there, and you can just press that as many times as you like and just bring it back to where it was last at its best, and then make your adjustments from there. So again, just making sure that we're using, because sometimes it does try to change you onto a different tyre, just making sure we're using that medium tyre again. So as soon as he's ready, getting him back out on the circuit, because we're still trying to build up
it's pretty even.
Message
still
understood.
trying to build up the percentage on track familiarity. So just looking for where Norris was there. Getting him back in the garage. So we've still got this really bad one down the bottom here. So obviously using the rear wing, we're going to instantly make this adjustment to get, it's the only really place that it can go, and it should have really been there looking at Danny Ricciardo's. It was right out on the side. Just trying to make small adjustments with the front wing. And obviously you can see we've still got a good one that needs to be a little bit further away than it last was. Obviously trying to keep that optimal one where it was, and we can do that, as you can see, just using the toe out. The toe out really is brilliant for adjusting the brake stability. Obviously just making sure we've got the right tyre there, and the 2 arrows pointing in say that we did have the right tyre on, that we're going to come back out on the circuit with. So just looking where the other drivers are before we get things, because obviously Daniel's heading back to the garage. Obviously just not wanting to overshoot him and not wanting to waste time. So obviously you can see we've made a few bad calls there on the brake stability. That originally it was optimal, and now we've gone from good to bad as well on the traction. So we know we need to get the traction the other side of where it was, and maybe just bring it back in a tiny bit. Still not wanting to make adjustments really with the wing, because we don't want to change the optimal one that we've got on the straights. But we do know that we missed out on the great that was an optimal one in the middle there.
How's the balance? How's the balance?
So just coming back to the circuit, fast forwarding things. Obviously you can see we're getting towards the end of this session. Just 10 minutes left. Obviously we're bringing Norris in here, but we could use the time to familiarise him with the circuit and just make adjustments to the setup during the next time we're actually properly in the garage. Or you can make those adjustments now. So obviously you can see we've got 2 there in the optimal, and it's just still that good one that we really want to adjust. So I don't really want to make too many changes with the wing, because they're bigger changes. The anti-roll bar and the tyre camber do make smaller adjustments. And you can just sort of hear with the tone of the clicks that they're tiny adjustments. So tyre camber making a smaller sound. But you can see on the toe out adjustment we've not got a big enough amount of adjustment to get that optimal in the braking stability back to where it needs to be really. So we're going to have to get the braking stability closer before we can make the fine adjustments. So you see there, the toe out, it really is perfect. But I think the cornering maybe is a little bit out there. We can still use that tyre to go back out. Still got plenty of laps left on it. Get things fast forwarding again. Get Lando back back out.
So Daniel, the session has now finished.
So just a few minutes left in there, but you're really wanting to get them out on track as often as you can.
Hello and thank you for joining.
So the final session then, before we head to qualifying, which I'll cover in another video, and I'll cover the race that we're actually doing here, because there's so many great techniques used during this race that they really do stand in good stead. But just looking here, the tyres that I'm thinking of using for the race, I'll probably do a short stint on the soft tyre and a long stint on the hard tyre. So if you had got another medium or another spare hard set, you could use those within this session. So if we just have a look at the compounds that we've got left, I'm going to use the medium set because I'm going to go with a set of soft tyres in the race and then a set of hard tyres that we know we've got spare. Save all my soft tyres for qualifying. So we could just go out with the way the car's set up here, because we've got two optimals. We know that the rear straights is optimal as well, but I'm choosing to make a few small adjustments here because just remember they are free adjustments in this section. There's no time spent that could have been spent on the circuit. Just make sure Landos are all changed over as well. I'm going to run 20 laps. Could be between 15 and 20 laps, and obviously trying to use as little out of the tyre as possible. And I've only really got the optimal on the straights there, so I don't really want to make too many adjustments, but just making sure Danny's going to do the same sort of run with the pace and tyres. And let's get back out on circuit.
Yeah, confirm.
Obviously not wanting to spare any of those seconds and getting them straight out and up to speed. So it's definitely, definitely like to do more runs during this session with regards to pace and fuel, to get an understanding of whether the car's burning fuel at high speed, and I guess just giving the drivers the familiarity of going at a faster pace. So I'll generally run a medium, sort of almost flat out and then flat out during this session, to give you an understanding of where you are in the leaderboard. So you can see we're sort of middle of the pack with the setup we've got running. Pretty standard aggression. Obviously just boosting them back up here. Also looking at the
balance.
Track familiarity as we go on. 4 out of 5.
Understood.
So I know we're getting there. So I'm just going to let Lando finish this lap, I think, and then call him in. Should have really let him finish the lap there, I think, just to see where he was. But getting him back out, getting him back in the garage. We've got 3 optimals and a good. So at this stage, I think 91%. I think as long as you're in the 90% region. As long as you're in the 90% region, I think it's probably worthwhile sometimes getting more track time than using the time, wasting the time, making a further adjustment. Because the last thing you want to do is ruin the optimals that you've got. Unless you can adjust in the bars, unless you know you can get them back on where they should be. So 91%, and we're still using that medium tyre.
Now, Daniel Ricciardo involved here.
So you can hear Daniel's still pushing. He's sort of on his semi-fastest lap, and then he makes this terrible error, understeering into the corner under braking, and damaging the aero. I think it's the front wing. Yeah, front wing's taken some damage, but it seems that if you, I don't know why it shows major damage there, and then you sort of come back to it, and I think it shows minor damage. But just come back, obviously getting Daniel back into the pit and make a repair on that front wing. So when I actually came in there, I don't think I've left the footage on. It was just a minor damage, and it just goes out with a new wing. I didn't even change the wing. I don't know whether that's a bit of a glitch. But anything that's got minor damage, it doesn't really give you the option to change it mid-race. But you can change it during the next session before it goes back out again. So as you can see there on Danny's car, we've still got that tiny bit of damage. You can see it's gone from a major damage to a minor damage on the chassis. But you can't change that until the next session. You can change it just before qualifying. It just takes too long to change, I guess, during this session.
Okay, keep looking after the tyre.
Okay.
So I'm just going to push with Lando, try and get an absolutely flat out lap, get the DRS as well and the energy recovery system in deploy. So you see we're just coming onto the back of Ricciardo as well, so not particularly the best time to start pushing, but just letting him run normal laps without the ERS. But the ERS does make a massive difference on this circuit, which I found out during the race. But Lando's still in 6th place, we're sort of up the top end of the grid. Not looking too bad. Danny's back into the pit and things are looking great there, 97%. It's almost maximum, but I think I was happy with just to leave that where it was and to get Daniel back out on the circuit. So just making sure we've got a nice gap for Daniel to come into.
Okay, push.
Understood.
Getting persevering and getting doing a flat out lap. So we're going to try and do an absolute push with Ricciardo.
Okay, use to deploy. Understood.
So just going to see what the difference using the energy recovery system is going to make on this lap. And I'll just go on board with Daniel for this one. So just bringing up the sector times as well here, just to see how he's going through each sector. Would have been nice to have seen some purples through here, but as long as they're green, we know he's progressed. You see he's still only got 40% track affinity. He's carried on here. So looking for that all important green. You can see we fire up the top there in 2nd place. So looking pretty good on the 97% setup, and we can just get him back to some normal driving and get thing just building the track affinity back up again. Just skipped along a bit there. Lando's going to be calling back into the pit.
We've had a crash.
Do you just want to give a very quick bit of feedback, and then we'll jump you out?
I'm happy.
Okay, understood.
So Lando sounding pretty pleased with this car's setup.
Sounds
Get
like
him in
we've
the
had a
pit, see what
spin.
we've got. So we just missed out on that optimal there in the cornering. So we could make that adjustment, but I decided just to go with 92%. Gonna stick a set of softs on and see what Lando can do with 92%. It's probably better to try and get the track familiarization up than the 8% that's left. So we're just going to let Lando warm the tyres on this outlap. Probably should have got him to start pushing there. You can see Leclerc on the map just getting up the back of Lando, and I think he just gets in front of him before we start our flying laps. So not really the best position to start pushing with another car literally a few car lengths ahead of you. We've gone with the deploy. I think we're going to sit in car. I'm just watching it on the map here, but obviously you can see we've got Leclerc just sat in front of us. Although he's on a push lap, I think himself, it's just going to be upsetting the aero balance on the car.
Yellow's ahead. Okay.
So just watching Lando over the line. Definitely progressed, but I think he could have been quicker without Leclerc in front of him, because you're still getting the use of DRS even without Leclerc
Can we
there.
have recharge on, please?
So just going to try and get the car ready for another run.
Yep.
But if you're enjoying these videos on the channel, please do put a comment in the comment section. Always smash that thumbs up as well, and if you haven't subscribed already and you're interested in further videos with F1 Manager, please do leave a comment. So you can see we're just trying to build a gap here with Leclerc so we can do another run, but just not really got enough recovered yet in the energy recovery system. Probably should have ran another lap. We had more time really to get another lap to build up the energy recovery system, and obviously that's building really in the braking zones, and as long as we're not using it coming off the corners under acceleration, it will gradually top back up again. But it really needs to be in harvest mode to get that energy re-recovered. Obviously we get a huge portion back at the end of this straight as we come into the braking zone, but we also use about 25% just coming off the last corner. So we get another DRS zone. But if you just watch it deplete the energy recovery system as you go through the acceleration phase off the corners, some of the corners really do a heck of a lot. Use a tiny bit on the way up the hill, nearly 10%. So you can see as this lap's progressing, looking at the energy recovery system, we're just not going to have enough. Use about 25% coming out of the last turn onto the long straight. So it really does hinder this lap. I think we would have taken P1 in this session had we actually not run out of the ERS system there. So a bit disappointing that last run.
And then like
Just
recharge
recovering.
button off, please. Recharge button off.
I think it actually means recharge button on there. But yeah, pretty happy with Daniel's setup at 97%. I'm just going to see if we can get a final run. If we've got enough time to get one run with Daniel, see if we can get him pushed a little bit higher up. Don't think there was enough time to get Lando to do another run. So just looking, make sure we've got a good space for Daniel to pull out into. I think I actually try and fast track Daniel's lap to get him round. I think we had enough time.
Use the pace now. Okay, understood.
So just also looking at the little map on the right hand side, you can see the number 5 car. You can see where he's tracking around the map without having to go into the main map. But obviously you can still see we are carrying some minor damage on the chassis still. So just trying to get
And
more of
recharge
that
on,
energy
recharge
recovered.
Understood.
I think we know from Lando's previous lap, 60% isn't really enough.
Let's see what pace you can do. Okay.
But we're going to go for a lap. We're going to go for a push lap.
Use the overtake button. Okay.
Hopefully we get maybe 60-70% recovered by once we've gone into turn 1. So I should have enough to finish this lap out. So you can see Daniel pushing a little bit too hard there.
Let's
Just
take
spinning
a
the
closer
car.
look. Daniel Ricciardo
Pretty typical for
involved
Daniel's season.
here. What a spin!
Not the best of accidents within the game. I think they probably could have done more with the model that they're using for the crashes, but
Okay, keep looking after the time.
you can see we can
Okay,
do
cheers.
nothing else really other than just finish out the session there.
And recharge should be on.
Understood.
So finishing off there with 97 and 92. Not always needed to get that 100%. Probably would have been better to get more track affinity. You can see Lando, I think he's at 92% as well, 90%. But I definitely recommend taking the pictures of each of the setups and using them at the next season. It'll give you an idea what sort of setup you really need, and you'll be able to get the setup much quicker. So I'll leave it just running out, and you can see the setup that's left. Probably won't really make any changes, and I'll just revert back to the 97%. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hope that's useful for people that are just getting into F1 Manager. Ciao for now.